There are a bunch of people that keep asking me about my weapons and how many I have and which ones I have and how I got them. I figured I would just record this instead of me individually responding to every message that comes through as the frequency of messages increases exponentially. First and foremost, we have one of my favorite blades. That's a new one, and it's by Black Wildlife, who is a blacksmith that sent this to me probably earlier this year. It's a machete. It's made like a kukri. And the thing that I love about this over the machete that I bought from Home Depot is that it has all these beautiful handmade details. Like you have these holes right here, and the way the blade is constructed, each part of the blade does something different. This is really, really good for chopping. This is really good for like cutting, like getting into something. And then this right here is sneaky. This little thing right above my knuckles serves perfectly for punching. So I can actually practice punching with the machete. So when I'm practicing my Carenza, instead of having the general slashes and cuts that I normally have to pay attention to, I get to play with strikes from different positions. I can also use the puño, or the pommel, the butt of the machete, the blade, to hit as well. And this is all one piece of metal. There's no separation. For a handle, I actually asked for antler, and the blacksmith actually made antler, which I'm really appreciative of. So this blade is absolutely amazing for practicing Carenza. All of my shapes from stick fighting and martial arts I get to implement here, but because of the construction of the blade, I can practice with the intent to strike with different parts of the blade, which I haven't necessarily been able to do before. It's really interesting thinking about how I would implement different attacks from different positions on different parts of the blade as I'm going through my practice. Second, we have my favorite thing to never practice with, which is my odachi. I got this from eBay for my 19th birthday, I think. I bought it for myself for my 19th birthday or my 18th birthday, one of the two. And I don't practice with this for two reasons. Number one, it's very heavy and it's incredibly unwieldy. All of the spins that I like to practice are very dangerous with this. This is actually sharp. This is made of Damascus steel. You can see the pattern right here, and it's incredibly sharp. It also has two blood grooves on it, one at the bottom and one at the top. So it's not something that I enjoy swinging around much. It gives me a lot of anxiety. In terms of shapes that can be made with it, all the katana shapes and stances apply, which are nice. You can also practice movement from the Jo staff and naginata, which are nice. And if you're brave, you can spin it, although I wouldn't recommend that. I actually bought this because I was looking up nagamakis and I thought this was a nagamaki, but despite what the eBay description said, it is actually an odachi. It's built like a katana, but the blade is longer and the handle is also longer. The difference between an odachi and a nagamaki is that the nagamaki, the blade is an equal size to the blade, whereas this, it's small. So it just has a really long handle and a slightly longer blade, which makes it more of an odachi than a nagamaki. Also, it's constructed kind of weird. The blade is amazing in full tang. The Suba is cool. The Ito wrapping is cool. This is real ray skin right here. There's no habaki. I knocked it off training a long time ago. And also, the scabbard is absolutely horrible. It's incredibly thin. I'm not sure the wood is even real. And I can't smoothly pull it in and out, which also is one of the reasons that I don't practice with it a lot. Sometimes it will be twisted as I'm putting it inside. The last thing you need is when you're cutting is for the saya to not move predictably. So it's impossible to train iaito with because it's not a consistent result when I'm practicing. This is wushu 3-section, so it's not as thick or dangerous or scary as a regular 3-section is, and I can do all of my same combinations and movements with it, which I'm really appreciative of. It's super traditional. It has the circle chains right here. These are made of rattan, which means they're not going to split when you hit them. Also, when you hit yourself with it, it still hurts when you get hit by it, but not nearly as badly as like oak. This is the same weapon from Karate Mert, but it's in brown. This wood is not rattan. It's probably like stained pine or something. This is a rattan eskrima stick that I picked up in Texas to replace the ones that I had broken from 10 years of use. I enjoy it because I get to practice all of my Filipino martial arts stuff. It's not as heavy as a lot of other sticks are. This honestly feels like plastic to me because of all the blades that I practice with. And if I hit myself, it's not the worst thing in the world. But if I'm hardening, if I'm watching TV, I can harden my bones with it and it'll help make them stronger, which I'm grateful for. I would recommend that everyone that's interested in blade practice learn how to become incredibly proficient with the rattan stick. And from there, you move on to other more annoying, more difficult things. It makes your life better. These are a set of clear acrylic nunchaku that I was given by my master. I bought them from my kung fu master like 8 years ago, maybe, when I was first getting into weapons and stuff. My dad gave me a pair of foam nunchucks one day that he dug out from his dad's house. And then after a couple of months when I was nice with those, I decided to get some real ones. So I went to go visit my teacher who owns a martial arts store. I saw these on his wall and I bought them from him. They're not really that impressive. They suck to get hit by because they're solid acrylic. They have some cool dragons put on them, which I appreciate. And they're kind of basic. They're just regular nunchucks. If you get the nunchuck bearing things, you can really make nunchucks out of everything. But they're cool for doing certain tricks with, and they look different because they're acrylic. So if you want something that looks interesting, these exist. This is a beautiful jin that was gifted to me by Century Martial Arts, and it has these amazing copper fittings on it that can be used to slide and make it look all presenty and stuff. They got the cool little tassels with the cool little knot on it, and I haven't destroyed it too much through practice, which is nice. I also have this little chain that you can hang it up on your wall or from your belt, but if you hang it from your belt, hopefully it doesn't break because things be fragile sometimes. You can do all of the fun crushing tiger, hidden dragon stuff with these, which is cool. It moves really nicely. It has a good weight so it doesn't go everywhere where you want it to go, which I appreciate. And the tassel forces you to be way more deliberate with where you're placing your wrist at all times. So I enjoy this instrument greatly. It's probably my favorite jin that I've had. I've had 3 of them now. Putting it in the scabbard is kind of weird, so I do like a modified katana closing in order to actually close it. Century Martial Arts sent me this amazing broadsword Chinese Kung Fu Dao, which I am greatly appreciative for. It has a great weight, and despite the fact that it's modeled after a traditional Wushu Dao, it has a couple fittings that allow it to be more useful as a modern instrument. The first of which is that it's wrapped with this nice little cordage right here. The flag is the regular satin flag, and then on the blade it has this nice false blood groove right here. It's not a real blood groove. It's also not sharp, but it is weighted, so it's not like Wushu Smil. I don't think it's gonna, it don't snap when I swing it, but when I'm practicing my cuts, when I'm practicing my forms, it does a great job of giving me a weight that allows me to build more strength in my wrist and familiarity with the instrument when I'm swinging it. I would definitely recommend this piece. Century Martial Arts actually gave me 2 of them. These nunchucks actually came from Asian World of Martial Arts, my favorite weapons store on the planet, and they're incredibly heavy. The only reason that I purchased them was because they look like Bruce Lee's nunchucks from the Game of Death. And like those, they are incredibly heavy. They also have this really cool holographic sticker thing on the bottom. And when I was like 12 years old during summer camp, I was showing off with the nunchucks. And somehow I hit myself in the back of the head and busted myself. And to this day, I have these scabs that just won't go away in the back of my head. But these are really, really cool instruments. You can do all the tricky stuff with them, but because they're so heavy, if you use them for like 10 minutes straight, your arms are actually start hurting, which is kind of cool. You can also do like those types of things as well. So They're very versatile for being so heavy, and they allow you to get really strong arms and wrists by manipulating them, which is kind of cool. This is my injured baby for whom I love dearly. Unfortunately, thanks to very stupid practice on my behalf, I cracked the saya and can no longer practice Iaito. And I've actually gone through 3 blades for various reasons where I've just been practicing with them and they've broken. But Iaito are perfect for learning how to use a katana and get really nice with the katana because they have the same weight as an actual katana. Sometimes they're even heavier, but they are not sharp because the blade is made of aluminum, either aluminum or steel, but generally they're made of aluminum. And they have the exact same weight, have the exact same construction, have the same integrity. It's exactly like a real katana. The only difference is this blade is not sharp and is not made of like a hard, sharp, light carbon steel. So it's very good for getting the basics of Iaijutsu and Bato Jutsu and Kinjutsu and all that fun stuff with a weapon that looks real, because it kind of is. Also, this tip, even though the blade ain't sharp, this tip is still a pokey metal thing, and it will poke you with metal, so be very careful. Anybody that like wants to do cool trick shotty samurai anime stuff, I always tell them to get in the Iaito instead of getting a katana, because people be out here getting fake katanas that break on them and stuff, and they end up in a terrible position. So get yourself in the Iaito if you want to learn how to do cool katana stuff. I broke the saya, so I can't show you any like really cool Iaijutsu stuff, but this has carried me far. This is my 3rd Iaito that I've had in life, and really the blade is cool, so I'm gonna just replace the saya and then I'll be good. Saya means scabbard for those that are not weebs. Next weapon! This Shira saya is actually the first Japanese style sword I ever had in life. I got it maybe 10 years ago, and I got it in a mall, in a like Chinese grocery store inside of a mall with my mom. And I didn't know anything about Japanese swords, and I thought this was cool, so I got it and I wrapped it up in tape, and I actually painted the bottom of it so it looked like a Pocky stick. I was so dumb, and I learned a lot with this. First and foremost, that a Shira saya isn't even used as a combat sword. It's used to actually carry the blade in between use when you're like repairing it and stuff. The second thing that I learned was kind of need a tsuba when you're going to be doing stuff, because it protects your hand from slipping, and it also protects your hand from being cut by a sword in the unlikely event that you are in a sword versus sword conflict. In terms of construction though, I believe this blade is full tang. I can swing it. I can do like Zatoichi stuff with it off steel, but I wouldn't advise it. This is actually like a sharp sword. Training with this is kind of dumb. Also, the hamon is fake. This is a fake hamon on this, but it is sharp and it will do very dangerous things. So if you're doing cool Zatoichi stuff, it works. You can do it. I wouldn't advise it, but I've been practicing for a really long time. You can also switch directions and do all of that fun stuff, but I wouldn't advise it. Shira saya are very dangerous, and the only reason I can do all this cool stuff with a katana is for reasons that I'm going to show you in a second. This sword is a great secret amongst martial artists on the internet, and not those that practice doing karate performance stuff, because this is a karate performance sword. This is a light sword made of aircraft quality aluminum. If you want to be cheap, you can look for the Pro Force version. If you want to be fancy, you can look for the Century Martial Arts version. If you want to be fancier than that, you can find chrysanthemum blades and enjoy all the XMA fun that comes with swords like this. It looks like a real sword. It cuts like a real sword. That's the sound of the sword cracking the sound barrier. Because it's not sharp, you can do a whole bunch of crazy tricks and not worry about yourself. You can also practice for when you're going to do certain things with a real sword, especially involving shibori and noto. Anything you could possibly want to do with a sword, you can do it with this one, and it looks real, so you can get all them juicy views on the internet for gratification without hurting yourself. Also, the point isn't sharp at all, so that helps. It's so nice I got 2 of them. Somewhere in Manhattan, there is a store called New Hope Martial Arts Supply. And the thing that I like most about New Hope Martial Arts Supply is they have weapons that I can't find anywhere else that are like old school vintage martial arts weapons from the 80s. One of them being these Shuangdao, which are double Dao broadswords, kind of like what Zuko has in Avatar, if you've ever seen it. They're incredibly heavy, which make you really strong, and they still have the old school wrapping on them with like wood underneath. They also have all the original fittings on them, and the blades have seen a lot. I don't know their story, but they teach me much, and I learn a lot learning how to interface with these very sharp, aggressive instruments. They're really, really cool. This is an expandable baton. When I was younger and stupider, I used to carry around weapons and longboard all over Philly. And this was my primary method of self-defense because I did not want to carry a knife. Some time later, I learned that carrying around one of these batons is kind of dumb because they're not that legal and also they're pretty dangerous. You can hurt somebody worse with a baton, and it's a worse deterrent than a knife is. So you might as well either carry a knife or be smarter about the hidden weapons that you're carrying around. However, for practice, this didn't even really serve me either. It's basically just a stick, and all the stuff that you do with a stick, you can do with this. So you might as well just carry around a stick and practice with a stick. It's not intuitive at all unless you already have experience with a stick. You're not gonna get nice with a stick by using a baton because it don't work the same and the skill sets don't carry over whatsoever. However, all the dexterity and stuff that you develop will transfer over. So for that purpose, it works out greatly. I think I got this at the Karate Mart headquarters in Arizona when I went there like 6 years ago. This is the first weapon I was ever given by a martial artist not related to me. It's a Dao, and it was given to me in my first year of Kung Fu practice. It's incredibly flimsy because it's a Wushu Dao, and it's also tiny, all things considered. It's really light and has this cute little oblong design and these nice little stenciled, engraved Chinese characters that I can't read. And my Sifu gave this to me many moons ago, and I never really touched it because it serves me no purpose at all, but it sounds really cool. This is a replica of Mugen's sword that I purchased at an anime convention 5-6 years ago, maybe? It was Momokan. It was called Momokan, and it was in Atlanta, and I purchased it, and I left it on my uncle's bed after I bought it because I wasn't allowed to have weapons in my dorm room at the time. This sucks as a weapon. It sucks to train with. I swung it, and the blade actually bent horribly. Has one of those stupid rat tail things, which means you can't swing it or train with it at all. It's also really dangerous because this little scythe thing, but because this scythe thing is similar to a scythe, you can do that. So there are options for movement that would not normally exist inside of a katana, so that's nice. Also, this blade isn't sharp, so that's a plus. And it's kind of designed to be like double-edged like a saber, which is also pretty cool. It has the blood groove in the middle, which is pretty cool. I fixed the habaki and like glued the habaki because it kept falling, or kashira. It's called a kashira. This is a habiki. This is a kashira. So I glued the kashira back on because it fell off from me training. And it used to have like the scabbard thing with like the triangles on it, but it fell off while I was training too. And this copper thing. There was another copper thing right here, but it fell off as well. I actually be training with the stuff I buy, which is why I can't just be out here casually buying instruments that don't work. Also, the thing that sucks about sheathing this, which I completely forgot about until now, was that with a normal katana, you can just guide it in, and then when it clicks, you know you're done. But if you wait, you're gonna get stabbed. So instead, I have to like close it, and then it's really better to just go like that. Let this be where it is. This is one of my favorite instruments ever. It was given to me by Master Ken Brown in Durham, North Carolina. It's a subarito. And so all of the muscles that I need to condition in order to be nice with the sword can be trained with this. It's incredibly heavy. It's probably like 3 to 4 pounds. And I can swing it fast or I can swing it slow. But for building tension strength, it's better to build slow. For eventually training with a kanabo, this is great for developing the strength necessary and also the understanding of momentum, so that when you swing with something, you understand the kinetic chain. And that way you don't hurt yourself. Subarito are training tools that strengthen your wrists and your shoulders and help you with understanding the alignment. so that when you're not training with a weighted sword, every other sword that you train with feels like paper. I purchased this sword from the same shop in New York, New Hope Martial Arts Supply, because in my naivete, my first sword I ever had, which was a Jin, left it outside for like 4 months when I went away on a trip. When I came back, it was rusted and nasty, so I had to get a new Jin. So I saw this in New Hope Martial Arts Supply, I purchased it, and then later on, I got that really nice one from Century Martial Arts. This Jin is incredibly lightweight, incredibly fast. It goes everywhere that my finger points. 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 Which is really cool. It's also quite beautiful in a simple, ornate way. It has this nice black wood handle. It has these nice steel fittings on it. It leads great into the nice steel blade, which is unsharpened. And then you have this cool scabbard right here with a nice little painted dragon on it as well. It's incredibly minimalistic in its design, and I enjoy it tremendously for what it is. It's also flappy, but I don't think it makes the sound. This is my baby. It is by far my favorite weapon in my entire collection. And I believe I bought this for myself for my 20th birthday. It's a white katana made of T10 steel. The fitting kind of sucks. Has this stupid silvery paint on top of it instead of just regular steel. That would have sufficed. But it has this beautiful Minuki right here, which also has the same stupid silver paint. And then it has this beautiful Kashira, which also has this stupid silver paint. Honestly, if it was just all silver and then it had the white Ito wrapping and the white ray skin, I'd be cool. But they wanted to be saucy with the design of it, unnecessarily eccentric. One of the many reasons that I love this particular sword is because it's made of T10 steel, just one of the hardest commercially available steels that you can get. You see how the light just glints off? What? It's also light compared to all the other stuff that I have. It's simple. I have this really cool white outfit that I like to wear when I use this sword. When I practice with it, it just, I can't describe how it feels. I'm gonna give y'all a couple swings so you can understand. I'm gonna swing at the microphone so you can hear. Absolutely incredible. Using this sword is almost a spiritual experience. These are fire nunchucks that were gifted to me by my friend Legend of Daywalker up in New York. He showed me and my friend Avatar Shi how to use fire and be safe with fire and deal with fire, and also gave us weapons. He gave her fire torches and fire palm things. He gave me fire nunchucks and a fire sword. And unfortunately, I lost my fire sword in transit from Greensboro, North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia, which sucks, but one day I'll replace it because having a fire sword was pretty cool. The best thing about fire nunchucks is that you can bounce them around, and because of this little chain thing, you can move them around in a lot of interesting ways. You can do that. You can also bounce it off your heel. You can also do all the yo-yo stuff like that. There's a dude, Ken Hill, that's really famous for his nunchuck tricks. One of my friends, Andre Marshall Flow, learned all of Ken Hill's tricks. And there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. So when these are on fire, it's dope. And because they have the chain, you're not really limited in the ways that you can move them. If anything, having them with this kind of a longer chain instead of a traditional nunchuck chain opens up the amount of moves that you can do, which I'm really appreciative of. When I was like 8 years old, a little bit after my birthday, my dad came into my room. He said, "Son, you are now old enough to be responsible with weapons." And I was like, oh snap, what am I getting? And he was like, you have this. Do not take this outside of the house. Do not show these to anybody. And I was like, all right, bet. He gave me a bokken, which is this, and then he also gave me a archery bow that I shot many a time. And now, because it's so tiny, I use this as my wakizashi. So when I'm practicing with the bigger bokken, I practice Nito Ryu with the 2 swords. And this is my wakizashi, and the other sword is my katana. I can do some fun stuff with it. It means a lot to me because we have been through much together. I spent many hours hitting the mess out of a tire in my youth, excising frustration. This is the aforementioned bokken, which is actually my dad's, but he doesn't use it because he's a grown man with a life. And I didn't have an appreciation for it when I was younger because it doesn't have a saya. So you can't practice any iaido or bato jutsu with it, which all the anime people like. But as I've gotten deeper into Kinjutsu and deeper into an appreciation for different concepts from swordsmanship, I can appreciate more the function that having a blade by itself brings and the techniques that you can practice with a bokken, including stuff like stances and footwork. You can also practice Nito Ryu, which is pretty cool. Some time ago, this blacksmith hit me up and he wanted to send me some stuff. So alongside the machete that I got a really good deal on, I also got this chopper, which I actually used to break up a whole bunch of wood. It's really heavy. It has this nice handle, which I think might be like resin on top of denim or some kind of cloth. And because it's one piece of metal, it's really, really sturdy. So when you're chopping with it, you don't have to worry about the blade going anywhere. It also has this hole for retention, so if you wanted to thread some paracord through it, you could do that with no problem as well. I'm not necessarily sure what this hooking portion is for, and I also like the curve that it has. It has this other curve right here so that if you have like certain kinds of fruit or vegetables you're chopping, you can come straight down on them, which is pretty cool. The same bladesmith from Black Wildlife also sent me this amazing skinner that has this really cool leather ito wrapping on it. It has this beautiful wicked curve and this incredible point. I've actually thrown it. I wouldn't advise that. And when I'm practicing Karenza and I need to be really mindful of all of my movements, having that wicked curve forces me to really consider where my knife is in space, where I am in space, what my relationship is to the knife. Because if I'm not aware at every moment what's happening with this, it could be a really painful day for me. This is my favorite knife from Black Wildlife, which I have actually been practicing throwing with over the last 2 days. I have to stop practicing throwing with it because I knocked the handguard loose. But this is really well constructed. I love this little sneaky blade right here that you can also put your finger in. It also helps with securing the blade when it's inside of its sheath. I love this classic Bowie knife design. I love the way that it points. I like this bevel right here on the back. It probably makes it stronger. I don't know anything about knives. But the pommel also serves retention so that if the blade ever gets pulled, you have this to hold on to. Your pinky goes straight into this position. Also, the pommel is pointed in just the right way for you to do some really cool stuff. When I'm using it in Karenza, I'm really considerate of how I can use that pommel and how the angle of the buck knife fits in my wrist really nicely. It doesn't stick to my wrist. It allows me to decide how I want to move it, which is really cool. It also has some weight behind it. Lastly is the foot. This club was made by my grandfather around 40 years ago, maybe earlier. I was never able to ask him what the heck the explanation was behind this foot, but it is hard. When I was obsessed with bone hardening, I'd be sitting watching TV, hitting myself with the leg of a deer in order to make my bones stronger so that I could eventually break bricks and stone and wood and all of that fun stuff. I would hate to be hit with this. I would hate to be seen with this in the wrong context. So yeah, those are not all of my weapons, but most of them. I have some sai, I have 2 more machete, I have some tonfas, I got some trick nunchucks. All around I probably have like 30 weapons, including like double weapons and stuff. And ultimately, when I got them, they were like symbols of power, tools of power that put their power into me. And over time, they've become things I can put my power into that allow me to use them in different ways and explore different possibilities of movement. And now that I've learned how to use my body better thanks to Kung Fu, the need for weapons is kind of diminished, but the appreciation for weapons has increased tremendously. I now see that weapons open up so many more concentrated possibilities for movement. So if I want to make a certain concept more prevalent, instead of using my hand, which can assume all these different shapes, instead, I can use a weapon that corresponds to certain movement and express that idea stronger in a more concentrated form. So if you're interested in getting into weapons, feel free to DM me. I've had a lot of horrible mistakes happen with mine. Stay away from balls. Stay away from anything less than $100 unless it's nunchucks or knives. If you are going to get into knives, make sure you know the laws behind knives in your area. If you are going to get into Japanese swords, do your research so that you don't get scammed or injured. And also, always start with the Nyaito. Have a great day, people. Subscribe and like if you want to do that. I might chop this up into smaller segments. If you want smaller segments, let me know and I might make them. See y'all later. Peace.